Does this do anything to change how you feel about Boston?
Not much, Matty, and it's because what they added was good vibes, not a player. They had Devers yesterday, they have him today, they had him for the season. This is the question I would ask you and Harold. If we were doing a dispersal draft of their roster, their major league roster right now, and I had the first pick and I had Devers, who's the second pick to try to just win in 2023? Who would you take? Who's the next best guy on the team to just try to win in 2023?
Good question.
No, it's really good. Really
that's
good.
an easy answer for teams like the Rays, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, even the Orioles.
And if that second or first guy isn't a pitcher,
yeah,
you're in major trouble.
It might be Garrett Whitlock, who's a swing guy. I looked at their roster yesterday, and I thought to myself, they'd be much better off if it was 2018 instead of 2023, right? 2018, you'd have Corey Kluber, Chris Sale, and James Paxton as your top three starters. That'd be great in 2018. Is it good in 2023? The 2018 Dodgers, it was great. They won their division easy with Enrique Hernandez, Kenley Jansen, and Justin Turner. Is that going to be good in 2023? The best year of Trevor Story's career was 2018. The problem is it's going to be 2023, and I believe strongly in Devers. Who else do I believe in on a roster in by far the toughest division top to bottom in the sport?
So there has to be a little bit of concern there if you're a Red Sox fan. And as much as I am more positive on Boston than most, that would be something that I really hope works well for them.
Well, obviously they're in a transitional time. And it's difficult for a club like the Red Sox to go through transition because they're expected to be at the top of the division every year. Mm-hmm. But this is a downturn. They're turning things around. I do think you got to let your young guys play and see what they're going to do if that's where you're at. And you have to allow them the proper at-bats or the proper innings to pitch to see what you really have if that's the direction you're going in. And I think that's where this club is at right now. I think they're going to have some pleasant surprises with their young players that really step up and perform well, and you go, all right, we got something moving forward for the future, not for this season.
If you're part of the 70% of viewers not subscribed, come aboard and make sure to hit that button if you enjoy the content and join the wonderful subscribers of the channel, as the Red Sox are just not a very good team. Heading into the 2023 season, nobody expected the Red Sox to be very competitive and in the running for a playoff spot, at least not in the division that they're in, the AL East. The Yankees just got Judge back and added Carlos Rodon. The Blue Jays continue to be on the rise. This finally seemed to be the year the Orioles can be a contender again after the second half they had in 2022, and the Rays are the Rays. They're just expected to be good because they exist. No, I mean, obviously there are a lot of reasons the Rays are such a successful franchise and organization, but nobody expected that to just suddenly stop being the case in 2023. So that now left us with the Red Sox, a team that actually finished in last place in 2022. The Baltimore Orioles, who had lost 110 games in 2021, finished ahead of the Red Sox the very next year, a team that was coming off a pretty deep playoff run, taking down the Yankees and Rays in the process. It was a big disappointment, and the offseason would only follow up with more disappointment for Red Sox fans. Every big-name free agent for the Red Sox said adios, leaving the team and heading elsewhere. Nathan Eovaldi would go to the Rangers, JD Martinez would head over to the Dodgers on a one-year deal, with the hardest pill to swallow being longtime Red Sox shortstop Xander Bogaerts leaving for San Diego. Now, it's actually kind of ironic because I would argue that none of those guys leaving really are a reason why this 2023 Red Sox team is just really not that good. JD has been great as a Dodger, and so has Nate as a Ranger, but even if those two were on this current Boston team, the Red Sox are probably still not that much closer to being a good team. And on top of that, Xander Bogaerts is not doing well with the Padres in his first year there. His first of 11 years, mind you. It was a massive overpay because the Padres got trigger happy and wanted to get someone big on the market, and after getting rejected by Aaron Judge and Trey Turner, they opted to overpay for Xander, and that looks like it has the recipe to be a disaster of a contract when it's all said and done. So again, these veteran Red Sox players signing elsewhere in free agency honestly isn't as big of a deal to me when you look back at it. It's mostly everything else that has gone on with the team. Masataka Yoshida, the guy from Japan, he's been awesome, really good for the Red Sox, and looks like he'll be one of the best hitters on the team for years to come. And they of course extended the young third baseman Rafael Devers to a massive contract. Finally, a homegrown star staying in Boston because the team decided to finally dish up the money. something they failed to do with Mookie Betts and now Xander Bogaerts, although 11 years is crazy for him. So the Red Sox went into spring training coming off of a last place finish while also losing 3 of their most important players, and not many people expected much out of this team, understandably so. Chris Sale was expected to make his return after a nightmare of a 2022 season where he just couldn't take 2 steps without getting hurt by some freak accident, but can you really expect him to lead your rotation to the promised land? I think the vast majority of Red Sox fans realize that the vintage Chris Sale days were officially done, and the hope was that he can give you at least 100 innings or something. Corey Kluber was signed, someone who was coming off of a decent year with the Rays. Nick Pivetta was making his return along with the highly touted young arm Brian Bayo, with Garrett Whitlock and Tanner Houck also being in the rotation. Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin were brought in to help improve the bullpen, and overall this pitching staff wasn't necessarily one that would blow your doors off on paper, but it also very well had the potential to surprise a lot of people. Skip ahead to now, and I don't even know where the right place to start would be, but since we're on the pitching, I guess I'll start there. Corey Kluber. My God, yeah, not good. I mean, this dude is just cooked, and it's tough to see. He seems like a great guy and has had a very good career overall, obviously especially with Cleveland where most of his years were. He used to be so good. We're talking about a 2-time Cy Young Award winner here. But he is far removed from that type of talent. His fastball has nothing on it anymore, all of his pitches seemingly have nothing anymore, and his career seems to very well be on its way out. He was so bad to start the season out of the rotation that the Red Sox decided to move him to the bullpen, and it's just been more of the same. More of the same to the point where the Red Sox basically just made up an injury for him to put him on the injured list, so he can't pitch. In 15 appearances this year, with 9 of them being starts, Corey Kluber has an ERA a little over 7, giving up 17 home runs in 55 innings pitched. He's also making $10 million this year. Let that sink in. Tanner Houck hasn't had a good year, pitching to an ERA over 5. Garrett Whitlock has had a hard time in his starts overall as well, also pitching to an ERA over 5. Nick Pivetta was so bad that he had to be moved to the bullpen. Chris Sale started the year off terrible and actually started to pitch really well, before being taken out of a game because of shoulder soreness and being placed on the injured list. There have really only been 2 bright spots in this rotation. James Paxton, who's been good but was also taken out of a game recently because of right knee soreness, and Brian Bayo, who's been healthy and pitching great all year long. He is clearly the future of this rotation, but that's been about it in 2023. Kenley Jansen started the season looking like vintage Dodger Kenley, giving up just a single run in his first 12 outings, striking out 17 hitters and walking only 3 while recording 9 saves. Since then, he has pitched to an ERA over 5 in 17 outings. He's just not reliable. The only consistently reliable arm out of the bullpen has been Chris Martin, who has a sub-2 ERA in 25 appearances. That's pretty much it. Josh Winkowski started the year off hot like Kenley, but also like Kenley has fallen off and isn't reliable anymore. This season has become so basically done with for the Red Sox that they're opening games with Caleb Ort on the mound. Caleb Ort has never been good at the big league level. In fact, he's only been really bad at the big league level. His ERA on the season this year is over 5.5, and his ERA for his career is over 6. No team that's serious about winning baseball games should be throwing that guy out on the mound. Ever. Yet here they are, having him starting to open games. Now we get to the hitting. Alex Verdugo and Masataka Yoshida have been the only 2 consistently good hitters in this lineup. That's it. Even Rafael Devers, who's still having a good year, isn't hitting as good as he should be, especially for someone who just got paid north of $300 million. I'm not too worried about him, though. I think he'll be fine, but there are plenty other hitters on this roster who probably won't be fine. Kike Hernandez, I love ya. Thanks for the fun you gave Boston fans in 2021, but this guy just simply has not been a good hitter since. He was bad and hurt last year, but before season's end, the Red Sox decided to give him $10 million for another year here in 2023, and he's been just as bad at the plate. He's not hitting. Christian Arroyo seems to be hurt a lot, and he did have a 5-hit game recently. The dude has potential, but he just doesn't seem to be reliable enough. Jarren Duran has been much better than he was in 2021 and in 2022. Much better. But is he a guy for the future? Possibly, I don't know. I don't know if he's good enough for that. Maybe he is, but it's not clear. They're getting virtually no offensive production out of the catcher's position, which was kind of expected. Both Connor Wong and Reese McGuire weren't expected to be the best catching duo in baseball by any means, but it's been bad hitting-wise for them, really bad. With that said, I've never valued catchers hitting as much. I mean, the Red Sox won 108 games in a World Series title with automatic outs as their catchers in 2018. Even last year's champions, the Houston Astros, they had terrible offensive production from Martin Maldonado and their catchers as a whole, but in my eyes, catchers are more than bats. I mean, obviously, they're catchers, but I think as long as you have good defensive catching and guys who work well with the pitching staffs, that's all you need, especially when you have other positions with good bats. But the Red Sox don't really have that as much as they did in 2018, which is why the automatic outs as catchers hurts more this year, because they just don't have as much firepower offensively. Justin Turner's been pretty good. Tristan Casas started off very slow, but has been much better since the start of May. But as a team, this just isn't a consistent offense, which is, I think, is a better way to put it than just saying they're a bad offense, because they're actually a top-tier offense in several team hitting categories, like OPS, batting average, RBIs, runs, hits. They're first in doubles. I mean, this isn't a bad offense, clearly, but there are clearly some holes in it, and like I said, it's just not consistent enough. But I think we can all agree here that the pitching from top to bottom is holding everything back. So my solution to this whole mess? Blow it up. Blow the whole thing up. Reboot this roster. Minus a few players, everyone should be on the table ready to be gone off the team, either by trade or just letting them leave in free agency. There's only a handful of players who should be untouchable, like absolutely untouchable. The obvious ones, like Rafael Devers, Trevor Story, and Masataka Yoshida, the ones who are at the beginning of their big contracts in Boston, and then Brian Bayo. Other than those four players, anyone can be traded. Yes, even Tristan Casas, but I wouldn't make him as available as everyone else, obviously. Casas is a guy who, although not necessarily having a great rookie year, still has a ton of potential to be a great player and should be in the cards for the future of this team. So he should be available for a trade, but only if another team gives the Red Sox a really good offer for him, like one they just can't refuse. The pitching needs a whole makeover. Paxton, Kluber, obviously, Sale, pretty much the entire bullpen, just blow it all up. Yes, this team is just a few games out of a playoff spot. Yes, this team is right around 500. But when you look at everything this roster has shown us up until this point, nothing about them shows us that they're a playoff team. Oh yeah, and it also doesn't help that you're in a historically great division where every team has the possibility of finishing over 500, and you're clearly the least talented and playoff-bound looking team of them all. None of that helps. It's always one step forward, two steps back with the 2023 Boston Red Sox. They swept the Yankees not too long ago, were riding high, and then won 2 in a row to open a series against the Twins in Minnesota, only to end up losing the next 2 games, lose 2 in a row to the White Sox after winning Game 1 of that series, and then just got demolished by the Marlins, losing all 3 games of their series against Miami at Fenway. Another thing that seems to be missing from this Red Sox team is any intensity or personality. They're just a very boring team overall to watch a lot of the time. They don't seem to have a leader on the team and in the clubhouse either, which is something David Ortiz recently spoke out about. They don't have a voice of reason or someone who can motivate these guys. There doesn't seem to be any of that. Just a ton of lifelessness. They look and seem dead. So where do we go from here? Again, in my opinion, reboot the hell out of this roster. It's time to start mostly fresh and build something mostly new. Because what the Red Sox are right now, especially on the pitching front, but also overall as a team, is not going to cut it. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.